Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Got a really good podcast this week. I was catching up with a very good old friend of mine, one of my favourite people in the world, and he was telling me he'd just got back from a trip to Iraq, of all places. So I thought we should probably get him on the podcast and get him to talk about it. So Mungo's a really old mate. I rented a room off him in London for about 4 years when I was up and down between the Lake District and London. So there's a lot of reminiscing in this one. But he's a great guy, and he's done some amazing and daft things on bikes. So I hope you enjoy it. Catch you later. Oh, so excited about tonight. It's been such a bloody long time since I've seen you. Which room are you in? That's changed colour, hasn't it? Because that was red before.
Yeah, that's right. Well done, yeah. It's now trendy white. Who's that?
Hello.
Wilfred.
Do you remember little baby Wilfred? Come and show us your big grown-up face. He's about
mate, you're right.
6 foot tall and 14.
Oh.
So how old are you now, Mungo? I'm 57.
You look good for 57.
I was going to go 42 for you.
47.
47? Okay, I wasn't sure it was 10 years or 15 years difference. Yeah, you'd still look 12. You're all right. I was just explaining to Noel our history meeting at Gatwick Airport, travelling to Morocco, 2006.
Wow.
So that was the first time you'd met at the airport going on that trip?
Yeah, we'd had a conversation because basically Mungo organised this charity ride through Morocco, through the Sahara, to pre-ride some of the Dakar tracks and then to watch the Dakar. But we were basically looking at doing 1,000 miles through the desert ourselves in 5 days, which at the time seemed a hell of a lot. Doesn't compare to actual real Dakar riding.
No.
And I think we had because it was in motorcycle news, and I remember being in an office in Edinburgh and going, "No, that sounds amazing." So I got in touch with you and we had a conversation, and you said, "How much riding have you done?" And I think I'd been riding for about a year, and you went, "Yeah, you're fine." And then I got there, and there was 2 people that I don't even think had ridden a bloody motorbike before, although one of them did go on to ride round the world.
Who was that?
Claire.
She ride around the world? I didn't know that.
She's done all sorts. Done loads of travelling, yeah.
She was she nearly died in an earthquake in the Himalayas.
It's entirely possible, yeah. She was all over the place, wasn't she?
It was really surreal. I remember going up to a news agency, and there was the Times, and she was the front page on the Times, and there was a picture someone took of her on that motorcycle trip in Morocco. And I thought, I know that. And she was a seismic geologist or something.
She is a geologist, you're right, yeah.
A seismic geologist getting caught up in an earthquake.
Yeah. Well, later in Morocco, in these incredible rocky gorges and stuff, there's a lot of geology around here. And she would explain what we were looking at.
Breaking up a little bit then, can you...
Let me switch.
Have you listened to our podcast at all?
I haven't. I just thought it looked like
You absolute
tampon.
prick.
It's like, why they called it tampon?
Tampod, the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast.
Really good. Your voice is lovely. I heard one, I did listen to a little bit where it was an intro. You're talking about kit on your own without no.
Okay. Right, yeah, that was the last one.
Sexy
Yeah,
voice.
Thanks, mate. I got quality kit, you see. I got proper microphone and everything.
No one's ever said that before. Certainly no women have ever said that.
Loads of people say that. Lots of people have said it's very relaxing, helps them nod off.
Jack off.
We do have a bit of a laugh. Noel and I take the mickey out of each other. In fact, Rachel told me off the other day, said, "Why are you always so mean to Noel?"
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what Ashley said.
About that WRC thing.
Yeah.
And I said to you, "You don't even know what WRC is, do you, Noel?" And I knew you'd know what it was.
Yeah.
And you played along brilliantly and just went, oh, they make Subarus. And it was just comedy genius.
Yeah.
It's a double act, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. He didn't know what it was, really.
No. World Rally, it's the C. Can't just be competition.
World Rally Championship.
Championship. Should be competition, shouldn't it?
Possibly. So, yeah, we'll focus on Iraq, but also we'll talk about you a little bit and your biking history as well. Have you still got loads of bike? Have you still got that KTM?
I just picked that up.
Whoa, look at that. A bike in the living room.
Oh, wait. Hold on.
Hang on a minute. There's more than one.
I sold the KTM, man. I feel like
I thought you might have done.
Another bike in another room in the house.
It's an original 96 or 98?
98. There's a pink lady upstairs, but I don't know if... hold on.
A pink lady?
Wow. You'll see if I can get in there. Ika's doing yoga. I can't go in there.
Hang
It's
on a minute.
Pink scooter. It's Pink Lady 3 because the last two were stolen. It's a Honda Vision. It's like the most ridiculous tiny scooter you've ever seen. 96. If it got really busy in traffic in London, you could just lift the whole bike up to make the turn, and dispatch riders would look at you like, "What are you doing?" And you go, "Yeah."
Mungo, you've got motorcycles in your lovely house, and turns out you're having relations with a woman. How have you managed to make that? Normally, bikes in houses means single bloke. But
Yeah.
You've managed to have it all. How have you done that?
When you're on a date for the first date and they walk in,
Yeah.
if they ask anything with disdain about the bike, you know it's not.
Deal breaker.
Mungo is the only person I know, and I'm sure this is, well, it is the case because obviously he's got a bike business as well, but he actually has more motorcycles than you.
No.
Just had a cull. Like KTM sadly went because I wasn't using it. I was doing more mountain biking, dirt biking.
What's the most number of bikes you've ever had?
I think 14 or something. A lot of those are boring school bikes. But the guy that I bought this Aprilia off on Friday from Plymouth, all of his lads are selling the sports bikes because average cameras, even dash cam dob-ins from people. And so they're all going enduro. So he turned up on like a sweet looking 2-stroke KTM to come from work to sell me the bike. So yeah, but in London, like where can you go for enduro anywhere near here?
It's a lot safer living where you live to have them in the house, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to have them in the house with like a spike in the seat ready to go up if it doesn't read your thumbprint. That's you. It's crazy the thefts here. Like they'll nick anything now and carry it through the house. So yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Which is your track bike now?
Still the old R1, the 02 R1, and I just came back from Spa where everyone there was on ridiculous, like 20 grand bikes, not even like 35 grand bikes. And I had a fuel problem. My bike's worth about 2.5 grand. I probably spent 16 grand on it over the years doing it up. It's got like secondhand magnesium wheels waiting for them to shatter. I've got upgraded head, so the engine's been out. It's doing about 160 brake, so it's quite a quick, shitty looking old bike. And I was at Spa pulling the tank off, spilling petrol everywhere in this F1 type garage, thinking, oh, I don't want to get that on my leathers. And then I looked around the place and realized I don't want to get it on these bikes. That's 40 grand. That's 35 grand. Michael Neves was there getting ready for like an endurance day. It was just ridiculous. But what a track. So I still use the old R1.
Mungo's R1, just to paint a picture of it, is basically it's got Öhlins front and rear. It's got loads and loads of trick bits on it. And then he's painted it by hand with olive military drab.
Yeah, because I had an XR250. It was ex-Army. And I had some paint for that, and then I had the track bike, the sports bike, in like gloss black, but a gloss black on fiberglass. It doesn't take long before it just turns into like an eggshell nightmare.
Yeah.
And so I just painted it with a brush, and people have said to me like, "Did you paint that with a brush?" But I've resprayed it, Clive. I've resprayed it matte black now, proper rattle can black.
But I remember finding a picture of it in like a performance bike magazine or something like that and going, does anybody know who owns this? We want to send him a prize for having the coolest bike.
Yeah.
You've spent 16 grand on a 2.5 grand bike.
I think so. I mean, that's a guess.
Wow.
But if you look at what I've done to it over the years, it must be over 10 grand the work I've done. But you never get that back with a track bike.
No.
Unless you like just done it and then you sell it, you might get some of it back. But yeah, it's a passion bike rather than like a sensible bike. But I still love riding it. No traction control and like, it's great fun to ride.
So is most of your riding that kind of riding then, would you say now?
Yeah, it didn't used to be. I used to do quite a bit of dirt, but nothing like super fast or anything. But now I've moved towards more long distance riding on tarmac with like tiny bits of dirt to track riding. Because I teach people to ride bikes all day, so it's all tarmac really.
And what kind of bike are you using for that?
Day to day, so I don't intimidate them. I'm usually on Ruby, who's like a 110cc red scooter, a Honda, and I love it to bits. Because it's a lot of instructors go out with a GS. Like today, I was on the GS because I owned a Tunbridge Wells for two module 2s at 6 a.m. because you got to do the distance and it keeps up with them. But day to day, usually I'm just pulling around next to them on a scooter. Yeah. And then if they need showing, I just jump on their 600. So they're on I've just got Z650 Kawasaki's, which are ridiculous, almost too easy to ride as a 600 because they're really central weight and they're not jumpy. And then I'm just selling a XJ6. That's what I used for years, XJ6 Yamaha.
So this is you're just training people heading towards their driving test.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I do a mix. I do quite a lot of advanced riding. So people who want to know what else there is once they pass, or returning after injury, or returning after having a family, like the classic baby forces sail thing.
Yeah.
Or I'm doing delivery riders. That's the bread and butter, is doing lots of delivery riders coming back for like 5 or 6 CBTs, like a ridiculous level of experience, who don't want to do the test mainly because of language or cost, because it's very expensive. It's over £1,000 now for a course.
So, so they're just having to resit their CBT to carry on riding a low capacity bike.
Yeah. So I try to make it focus on what they need and look at, like, they're usually okay, but they're too close behind vehicles and overtaking's a bit iffy and they don't scan enough. And so I try to like tailor it to their level. And then I get people who are very slow learners who I just say, quite frankly, like, you need more time to do it in more like car training, like in 2-hour sessions. So they absorb more, because the way it's designed is very tricky for the average coordination level to be done in one day, I think.
What's your motorcycle school called?
It's a complicated name. It's Mungo's Motorcycle School.
Wow, where did you get that from? How did you think of that?
Just came to me, brainstorming.
Brainstorming.
Tell us where you're based.
I'm in East Dulwich.
If you're looking to pass your test and you're in South London, you should definitely get hold of Mungo's Motorcycle School, because Mungo is the nicest person you're ever going to meet, and he's awesome trainer as well.
I don't need any more work. I just want to have time off and go riding a lot.
Take that back. Go somewhere else.
But thanks.
I learnt more on my CBT test than I did on any other sort of instruction I had. That initial CBT thing just didn't even remind me. It just taught me a lot of things I didn't even think. Some things I was sort of doing, back braking for sort of steadiness through cones, which I then now use through hairpins and things. That was a brilliant trick that was kind of reinforced on my CBT.
Have you learnt nothing since your CBT? Is that what you're saying?
I haven't. I was just surprised that I learned anything at all on it, and I learned 2 or 3 things that have stuck with me ever since.
Well, you, like me, you could actually you could physically ride a motorcycle before you did the CBT. So
this was me taking it at about 40, something like that.
Yeah, similar thing here. So I'd raced as a kid, so I knew how to ride a bike. It's just a case of, and when I was doing the U-turns in the road, my instructor went, probably don't tilt the bike over and stick your leg out like you do on a motocross bike. I know it's effective, but you might get failed because of that. Okay. The rules around passing your bike test, Mungo, and this might be useful if people are listening and they want to pass their test, or they know somebody that wants to pass their test. You have to do the CBT, and then there's some age things attached to it, aren't there, and some limitations.
Yeah, so if you're 16, you're limited to 50 cc. If you're 17, you go for 125. It's cut, and then if you want to progress onto bigger stuff, it's in stages now. Rather than the old days, you could pretty much scare yourself very quickly getting onto 250s, LCs, and RDs and stuff. So nowadays you can do your first license. You can do a 125cc full license at 17, but if you want to upgrade, you've got to have either 19 years, you'll be 19 years of age, or have had that license for 2 years. So they restrict you slightly before you get onto bigger stuff. Although it's still technically possible to be 21 and have a full bike license if you started at 17. At the moment, if you haven't done that, you have to be 24 compared to how it used to be, where you would be 21 when I was doing my license to get an unlimited or direct access scheme license. So that would be, in simple terms, 600cc or more, or 47 brake plus. The A2 categories, like the middle categories, a maximum of, they do it in kilowatts, which I don't understand, but it's 35 kilowatts of 47 brake.
How long have you been doing this?
I'm going into year 18 now.
18. So apart from the sort of massive increase in delivery drivers that's come with the whole delivery rider thing, how's it changed in the last 10 years in terms of who's coming to take a bike test? Has it changed?
Yeah, it has changed dramatically. There's a lot more women doing it. A lot more women doing it, not because they've been pushed and prodded by their boyfriend or other half to do it, just because they want to do it for themselves, or they're part of a group that's into it and they're going from 125 to full license. There's a bit more people coming in to do advanced riding who are not necessarily the standard high-vis preaching to the converted advanced riders, who actually have had a moment or just feel like they've got iffy questions about their riding and want to get someone to have a look at them. So that's pretty cool. And then I do a little bit of coaching on track for people who want to get on track, who are nervous about it and think it's a bit lawless and wild, but actually it's very regimented going on track day. So I do a bit of that. But the demographics massive now. So I'm trying to speak maybe 8 to 10 languages in very pigeon way to say left and right, stop, turn around, watch out, all that. So it's like traveling the world in London, like for the nationalities that come in. So really, really incredible.
So the women and the people that are coming on to learn to ride motorbikes for fun that aren't the delivery drivers, do they have aims in mind? Do they have things that they want to do? Is it just for fun, or do they have long trips in mind? What's that all about these days?
They generally have more of an idea of plan in the future or dream in the future than most men. So they're usually connected to either by following or actually riding already certain groups. Like there's a famous group in London called the VC, which is the vicious C word, because they were slagged off by guys for being women on bikes, and they kind of embraced the term and turned it into their club name. So they have like 500 people in Wales doing the I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's the KTM Sweet Lamb course or something. So they've been out there doing big group meets, and so quite a lot of off-roaders or gentle off-roaders like trail riders and stuff, gravel roads. I've trained quite a few solo women who were very nervous because of prior training or training in other countries, or certain other countries like Poland. You can get a full license with very little actual understanding of riding a bike. Train them from being like shaking wrecks to now riding across Europe, off-road, and a lot of it off-road. So yeah, it's quite a lot of people like that. They've got a good mission and plan to do it. And
knowing you probably stay in touch with quite a few of the people that you've trained.
Yeah, it's really good. That's the rewarding part, is when you see them rise up and go from like a shaking leaf on a 125 to sending me pictures from all around the world, riding off-road or riding on long distance.
So you've done some amazing trips certainly in the last few years.
Yeah, well, the big trip this year was to Iraq, to the safe part of Iraq, which is Kurdistan, which has never been overrun by IS or anything like that. So that was inspired, but slightly embarrassingly, by Top Gear went there. And if you type in Top Gear Kurdistan into YouTube, you'll see a pretty amazing footage of them going through these rocky gorges, like Grand Canyon type terrain. And I always want to go there because it's not that tricky in terms of you don't have to freight the bike. You just go across Channel Tunnel, and that's the last bit of water you cross. It's just straight through Europe and into Turkey, and then you're there. So it was fairly, compared to going around the world, as impressive as that is, there was very little water and an amazing change of scenery and time zone. So
was that on the GS then?
Yeah, so I had a work bike that was like a bike I never used as a bit of a backup for the two XJ6s going wrong for whatever reason. I had a third XJ6 Diversion, which is quite a dull bike, but it's like a touring version. I thought I was going to use that, but we did a trial trip to the Ring of Kerry through Wales, and it was just a bit wheezy with all the weight on it of all the camping gear and stuff. So I just thought I'll get a GS. It was like my third GS. I had the 1100 that I took around Scandinavia and stuff a while back with my old man, and then I had an 850, is it? And then sold that, and then I just thought, let's get a GS. It was a 1200 GS adventure because it comes with all the bells and whistles. So I thought, yeah, just stick it on. And it's just a fantastic bike.
We'll come back to the Iraq trip. I want to talk in a little bit more detail about that now. But you've done the Afghanistan-Pakistan border a few years ago with our mutual friend.
Yeah.
Az?
Yeah, with Az. Yeah, that was 2008. We got to Pakistan. We flew to Islamabad. And the day we landed, the president ran from the country. So he was being hunted down. Okay, it's getting a bit exciting. And I think that was the year the Marriott Hotel was bombed. So it was quite lucky that we were cheap because we stayed at Holiday Inn. So we stayed safe.
My recollection of this story is you basically met some, and I tell this story. It's one of my stories, Noel, that I tell frequently that you love me hearing repeatedly. So I'll tell the story and then Mungo can tell you how true or not the actual story is. So the way I remember it is you trained some general from the Pakistani army to ride a bike in London, and he said, and you talked about going to doing the Karakum Highway in Pakistan, and he said, yeah, that's fine. I'll arrange for you to stay in some of our hill forts along the way, so you'll have somewhere safe to stay. And like the week before you went, he rang up and said, guys, it's looking a bit dodgy. You probably shouldn't come. I won't be able to let you stay in the forts. And you just thought, fuck it, we're going anyway.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, he would call something like Akil. Akil was, I don't think he was a colonel, but he was like lieutenant or something. He was quite high up and respected in the army and had lots of contacts. So he's like the perfect fixer guy. And he did set us up with a local who was really nice, but hadn't ridden a bike much, to lead us. And we went up to Abbottabad where they found Osama bin Laden. And there's quite a chance that he was there at that time. But anyway, we hired CG125s, which are like, you can do anything on a CG125. And these weren't just normal bikes. These were CG125 Deluxes, which means you get a bigger headlight. It's just incredible bit of kit. And we hired them. We bought them, I think. We left Islamabad, and this guy was leading, and he was confident but hadn't ridden a bike. He was confident vocally, but maybe not mechanically. And then going down into a town where they said, whatever you do, it's a town called Battagram, don't stop in this town because Taliban come through there. Like, it's pretty risky to walk around there if you're a Westerner. And on the way in, this guy took on a car head to head and lost. So at the last minute, like, slammed rear brake, kind of high-sided, like broad-sided, and then it spat him off. And he had a passenger on the back, and he open fractured his leg on the main road into Battagram. And I was in the road with him, like, trying to keep him, just giving him some contact, like holding him, make sure he's all right. Thinking, what am I going to do next? And the Pakistani army turned up and just kind of looked at him, didn't do much, and buggered off. And then randomly, 2 Land Cruisers turned up with a group of old British people, men and women, who looked like they'd been roadies for Pink Floyd or the Rolling Stones. And one of them was a lecturer in, like, mountain rescue or something. He was like the best medic you could get, and he had all sorts of drugs that he shouldn't have had. And he stabilized this guy, and they, like, inflated around his leg. And everything was perfect. They even got, like, they had IKEA high-vis jackets on. Like, they went into their routine. And then we rode him to Abbottabad, where there's a hospital, which is, like, if you've ever been to a Pakistani hospital, you don't want to go to a Pakistani hospital. But it was the best hospital there, and he was okay. So then after that, we were just on our own. And so we pushed on for the Chinese border, which is the scenery around there is just mind-blowing. Like places like Hunza and Gilgit. Like, you're running through mountains where you look up further to see the top of them. And the roads are incredible. Some was quite gravel then. I think they've made it more tarmac. I think the Chinese money's come in and they've improved it a lot. But just absolutely stunning scenery. One of the best trips I've ever done. And the only addition to that is they blew up the bridge while we were in Hunza, which is like this idyllic paradise microclimate place up in the mountains, like near Nanga Parbat, like really big mountains. They beneath us, the way we'd come, they blew up the bridge, so there was no petrol, and all the locals nicked the petrol. So on the way, they bought the petrol wisely, but on the way back, we did about 250 miles on a full tank on a CG just by cruising, turning it off down the mountains, just trying to get to the next petrol station, and made it. So yeah, CG saved us. CG's up to 4,800 meters. Have you built up to these kind of trips slowly over time, or have you just sort of jumped straight in and done these big trips? You just got to get stuck in, I think. Yeah, is that how you feel about it? Try to push out there and go somewhere a bit unusual or different. And I did a lot of traveling with work. I used to work for Amnesty doing like human rights work. You did a lot of traveling with them, and so that took me some pretty funky places. Yeah, the hardest part is going. You just got to get stuck in and go. But yeah, I suppose I did in a way. Like, you start with somewhere like Scandinavia, and then you say, I've done that, that's all right, let's go somewhere a bit more fruity. Yeah, and push it. But it's usually always a cliche of like, everyone is the more remote you go, or more supposedly hazardous you go, everyone's twice as friendly and even more helpful with nothing in their pocket, you know? It's such a strange thing about human nature, that, isn't it? Are there any other big, entertaining, good story trips you've got to share with us? I guess the ones you did, like Morocco every year for about 10 years, following the Dakar route, was just stunning. And all my photos now of those trips with you and other people are fading, so I need to go out there again. So I just definitely want to go and see Geordie Peter, who runs Wilderness Wheels, who was such a star for us. Pete Soldi's not there anymore. Is he? No. Sam runs it now. Sam bought it off Pete. Is Pete still out there? Pete's back in Newcastle. Is he? Moved back, yeah. Wow. But yeah, he's kept that contact with Sam. I'm still in touch with Sam. But yeah, it would be amazing to go back out there. I've still got an unfinished quest to ride the big dunes at Mazuga. Do you remember what happened last time we went? Or the second time I went? The rut. Yeah. Was this the collarbone incident? Yes. Yeah. So did you? Yeah, exactly. Did you witness this fall, Mungo? I think I came up behind him. Yeah, once he's fallen. Yeah, he was way too fast for me, but he was was it day one? It was about 2 hours into the ride. It was always like on this trip, which I loosely organised, like put people together and then let professionals actually give the bike and sort the route and everything. Always day one or last day was the biggest accident. And like the first trip I ever organised, I think before Clive's one, this guy give it huge amount of power with no real off-road skill and high-sided in one of these rock tunnels. And it looked like he had spinal fluid coming out of his nose. Oh. I don't think it was in the end, but like the guy running the trip, who was as tough as old boots, different company actually, he was really worried. And I thought, oh God, if he's worried then, you know, and he had the sat phone out and everything. We were going to airlift him, but when the King of Morocco flies, no one else flies in that area because of previous attacks or something. So yeah, always first day or last day, someone really twangs it and hurts themselves. Yeah. And unfortunately, Clive was sat in a van. It was a nice Mercedes Sprinter, though.
It wasn't. It was an ex-Dakar truck.
Was it?
Do you remember?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember it was bumpy as hell, and it was actually quite painful just for me to sit in because of my injury.
Yeah.
And there were no seatbelts in it.
Oh.
And there was pretty much nothing to hold on to. So you'd be bumping up, flying up in the air, having to push yourself against the windscreen to get back in your seat with one hand.
Yeah.
But there was no way I was not going to finish the trip. I had the option to fly home, but why would I? I'd paid all this money to do this, week-long trip. So I kind of just made the most of it.
Yeah, you were very positive about it.
I wasn't at the time. I remember the second day when everybody rode off without me. I cried. Real tears.
No way.
Way. Yes.
That's true.
Nobody saw, and I've not shared that anywhere. I probably have shared that before on the podcast, but
Up to Mazuga. That ride is worth doing.
Yeah, I've got a photograph of me at Mazuga with my arm still in a sling, sitting on a bike, and I think I rode a bike about 100 yards just so I could say I'd done it.
Well, let's do it then. Let's get up there.
Yeah, I'm game. Your charity was called Riders for Rights.
Yeah, it was called Riders Against Torture, but that sounded a bit kinky. So we changed it for an Aussie mate of mine. We did some riding in India. He said, you should call it for Riders for Rights. I was like, okay, that sounds good.
With a number 4, and the final S was an X. No, it wasn't. I made that bit up. I want to read to you, unless you've got any more questions, Noel.
Nope.
About the Morocco stuff, because I know you've heard all the stories 10 times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read to you now the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Officer's advice about travelling to Iraq, which you probably didn't even look at, did you, before you went in June?
Not really, no.
No, not really, not at all, I think is the word you're looking for. So the FCDO advises against all travel to the provinces of Iraq except the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And you've already said you went to the safe part.
Yeah.
But it also advises against all but essential travel to the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And the reasons why is because there's a tax on global coalition military bases, diplomatic premises and foreign nationals, including a number of areas in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, which remain subject to a sporadic attack by military drones and rockets. There is a possibility of an increased threat against Western interests, including against UK citizens. It says you should have robust security arrangements in place. That's probably more than just having a helmet and some padded clothes on. I'm just laying it on thick. You can tell me I'm a weirdo in a minute. There is a high threat of kidnapping throughout the country.
But I mean, in reality, could it say you should have robust security arrangements or a motorcycle?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a great getaway vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in Pakistan, we had like a dark visor, and that was my strategy because his dad's from Pakistan, so he looks the part. But I just had a dark visor on, thought they won't see me. They can't see me.
That's a great idea.
Until you take the helmet off. That's what I realised later.
Yeah.
So all the listeners are now imagining Az to be this kind of local native, understands the language, speaks the language, great in any kind of situation. Yeah, he doesn't speak any, is it Urdu?
Yeah, nothing.
He's no language at all. Probably couldn't even oil a chain. And I don't think I'm being terribly rude. I am being rude there, but I don't think I'm not speaking the truth.
He'd win the Style Award, Most Stylish Biker Award.
He is a very handsome man, yeah, we'll give him that. So taking all those points into consideration, you still thought, let's go to Iraq.
It's so friendly out there. The Kurds are they're just ridiculously friendly to the point where it's totally humbling or a comedy. So you'd stop in a place and 3 lads would get out of a pickup truck. Bear in mind, it's like 43 degrees. Plus the heat of the bike and the tarmac, and they walk past you. They acknowledge the bikes, maybe check the bikes out. They go into a shop, that petrol station, and they come out with 2 cold drinks and give 2 middle-aged men who look lost 2 cold drinks. That stuff would happen all the time. Or you go to we did mainly camping, but we stayed in one hotel that was like brand new. The guy running it was full of jobs, but he still took us out to dinner. And from the Kurds that I know in London, they say that's standard practice. To be helpful and kind to travellers. It was absolutely incredible. Getting through the border was a bit messy because we didn't know where to go or which booth. I mean, but a few guys that had family in London and would, say, "I'll come here and we'll help you," and all the rest of it. Yeah, but across all the countries, it was overwhelming with how much kindness there was. Like we stopped in Bulgaria in a campsite. Just as we switch off the engine, 2 cold German beers would appear, and the Bulgarian guy was like, "Yeah, I ride a bike. I've got a KTM," and stuff like that all the time.
Gosh.
You didn't just go on your own. You were with some pals, weren't you?
Yeah, we had 13. The most we ever had at the pre-meetings, which were at my local pub. We had 13 people turn up, and I embrace all that. Like if they want to come or don't want to come, the idea that they turn up to a meeting is great because it probably means they're going to do something at some point that's wild or exciting for them. But in the end, 4 turned up to go.
What, these 13 initially, were they all friends of yours, or have you just put the word out?
Yeah, they were all people I knew. They were either people I trained who were really keen or were working too hard and couldn't get out but wanted to get out, or old mates who should be going on trips just workaholics. Some of them were quite close to coming. 4, in actual fact, turned up to do the trip because it's about 7,500 miles. And we were trying to, from the meetings, we were planning to do 250, 300 miles a day with a couple of crazy days to just, because you got to do some distance to get there. They all knew that. And then by day 4 in a campsite in Innsbruck, Charlie and Ollie just said, right, this is too much. Like, we're just going to stay to more mainstream Europe and do an alpine trip, which is fine. And it was really amicable. But I realized like day 1, this is pushing these guys. The other guy, Richard, an amazing guy who's an instructor. He'd never really done much motorcycle traveling. He'd been a truck driver before in Europe, but never really done like pleasure journeys. He was good to do the distance because, if you're teaching on a motorbike, most of the time you're trying to keep 3 people safe and doing a lot of talking or focusing. And so when you don't have that, doing 250 miles a day is really enjoyable and really easy. So for him, he was good to go.
It's just you and Richard made it to Iraq in the end then?
Then 2 of us made it there. And
So the people that dropped out, was it the distance or the speed or the duration?
I think it was, I try to make it like 3 weeks or near enough 3 weeks or just over 3 weeks. I thought that was doable for most people. I mean, I know it's longer than like the usual sort of 7 to 10 days, but I thought that's doable. But yeah, it was the miles every day. Because I try to choose in every country, I try to go to the best Sunday roads that the local riders would do every day, which is hard to get right all the time. But I just try to look at the map and do no motorways as a rule, which didn't always work because actually Turkey has some really good motorways where you can see the landscape and there's no one on them, so it's actually quite a good way to munch miles. But for the rest of it, it was choose old roads, like wiggly roads and roads alongside rivers and over mountains, so you're not trying to be direct, but you're trying to get stuck into the terrain and the beauty of the roads. So I think that was we had one guy, Ollie, who was like a transatlantic sailor. He's a tough nut, but he'd just done his full bike test with me and he got a CB 500X. So a really good choice for a first time rider, but it was blowing his mind, the pace that we were trying to do. Not that we were like going for it, but for a new guy, that's a lot to do back to back and camp and maybe not get a great night's sleep and all the rest of it. So saying that, we only had like 2 afternoons where it was raining or damp. It was like absolutely dry as a bone.
That's interesting how you pick your route. I mean, I think all of us would look for squiggly lines, but I'd never thought to sort of look for roads by water before like that.
Yeah, because I think often the original roads they'd follow the river, like there's an easy way to cut in a road, and so yeah, I follow that quite a lot. And sometimes you get it wrong, like they look great, but they're just that worked quite well. I got a cheesy book of like the 1,000 best roads in the world, whatever it is, and a lot of those were accurate, were good.
Whose book was that, out of interest?
I can go and get it. You want me to go get it?
Yeah, because this is a thing, isn't it? You sort of take for granted that how to pick a road. I always just look for a squiggly line, but it's interesting to hear that there's somebody's using another technique or looking for something else. Look at the size of that book.
That's a huge book.
Yeah, man.
1001 roads to drive before you die.
And on the back there's Nürburgring. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did that on the way back. We went Nürburgring on the way back. Fully loaded GS being like shaved by Porsches.
That looks like a really good resource, that book.
Read out the title of the book and tell us who wrote it so people can get it.
1001 Drives You Must Experience Before You Die by Daryl Sleeth with a foreword by Charlie Boorman. He's everywhere.
Charlie Boorman.
We saw him.
Wow. It turns out he mountain bikes with a listener friend of ours as well. So I am secretly hoping that at some point we'll get him on the podcast as well. So that's actually a good resource, was it?
Yeah, I was impressed with this. There wasn't any doozies on it. It didn't have much for Turkey, but the ones it had, like there's a really good road in the sort of middle of Turkey up to Mount Nemrut, which is about 2,000 meters, and you go up to these ancient shrines of King Antiochus, which is like a long time ago, and it takes this cobbled road all the way up to the top. It was absolutely magnificent. Really glad we did it. So yeah, and we've had good roads in Belgium, and I never really knew there was good roads in Belgium before. But yeah, there's some really lovely roads in Belgium.
So did you do much planning before you left, or was it all pretty much down to see what happens as you get there?
So sometimes because the guys were getting a bit tired straight away, we had to sort of alter the route a little bit. But we just did like, there's 250 miles. Where's a good road? What does the book say? Look up a little bit, but I try to keep it loose. It's horrible if you're trying to be really rigid to where you're going. You
didn't have anywhere booked. You just basically find somewhere once you got your miles in.
Yeah, if you got internet, you find somewhere, a campsite, and you just go with reviews. If they're near water, we try to get swimming everywhere. So we swam in the Black Sea, we swam in any lake going, and that was a good little move. The standout road for me was the Transalpina in Romania. That road is on fire. Like, that's ridiculous. It's got the Instagram zigzag stuff, which is, I don't really like riding that much. It's just like 100 meters U-turn, 100 meters U-turn. Oh, there's a car on the wrong side of the road. But the beginning of that through the forest going up to the high part is absolutely flowing and stunning. And no one was really there. It was really, really well made and quiet.
We haven't done that, have we? We never made it as far as Romania on our big European trips.
No, we haven't.
Did the Transfigurian? Did we do that?
Transfigurian.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. You could do the Romaniacs.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
No.
We spent a weekend with Graham Jarvis once in Spain, and he was trying to encourage us to go and do the easier version of that, and he'd train us how to do it, but we let that opportunity slip.
Yeah. The easy is quite tricky.
Did you have any nice off days and go for a lovely walk? Or was it just forward motion the whole time?
Yeah, not really. We had a rest. We tried to do rest days, but we did a rest day in Hungary, where in Budapest we went to the spas and like just chilled out for 3/4 of the day. But then because the guys had, as much as we loved them, had like slowed us down a little bit. We kept on going that evening. Yeah, is that right? No, we had a night and a day-ish in Hungary, but left in the evening. Yeah. We did quite a lot of walking, like up in the mountains when we've set camp and stuff. We did quite a lot of walking in Iraq. We tried to find this amazing road, which we did find, which was that Top Gear road, which was there's a civil engineer back in the 1920s called Archibald Hamilton, who was a really pioneering engineer who did a trade route over the mountains in Kurdistan, and he wrote a book about it. And that's that gorge road that they zoom back in Top Gear, and it's just absolutely stunning. They were lighting fuses and like running from the TNT to blow it up and make it. It was an amazing story. So we found that was really good. No, we rode a lot. We did a lot of riding.
How much time for the whole trip?
It was 23 days. 24 days and 7,500 miles, and Google Maps was about right. That's what it predicted, pretty much.
Yeah.
And how much of that was tarmac versus gravel track type things? I'm guessing
probably really different to what you guys want to hear, but it was probably 2% gravel and the rest was tarmac. And Rich fell off on the gravel in that 2% twice within about 10 meters. Bless him, because he's just not used to off-roading. He was on an FZ8, so road tires. Didn't turn off unpaved roads on the Google using Google. And, I turned round because it looked quite dramatic. It was like a mountain pass in Turkey near the Euphrates, and he just did the classic mistake of pull clutch in on gravel downhill and just lost it, and took that pretty well. Helped him up, went back to the GS, and then turned around again, and he fell over again. And then I heard every swear word in the world.
Were you on the headset comms?
No, we didn't do any of that because we just did. What did I do? I had like molded earplugs with Bluetooth. It was just mainly music. We just listened to music and then we'd just catch up. Yeah, I Bluetooth, especially working all day with Bluetooth. Do you use it a lot? I don't feel like
we've tried to, with varying degrees of success. Mainly not successful, but a few of us now have the new Sena Mesh stuff.
Yeah.
And it is brilliant. It actually works. Once you've got them connected in it, you can do it on an app on your phone. You can scan a code and it's sorted. Once you've done it once, you just switch it on and you're off.
You're just talking about comms generally, about whether we have them or not. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I've just been on a 3-week trip with my girlfriend around Europe, and we both agreed at the end of it. And we had a fantastic time. One of the best things about it was our intercoms. We'd never ridden with intercoms before, and it was absolutely fantastic. It did make us wonder how on earth did we do this before, and what a solitary sort of ride it would have been without them. But it was one of the best things about it. But I've just resisted intercoms for years and years, and I think, God, I don't know how we've done it in the past. Just from navigation, because I was the only one on that trip with a sat nav, so being able to let her go in front and say, right, it's the third exit. There's a turn in 2 miles. That was fantastic. That I didn't have to lead the whole time. In the past, I've been on so many trips where somebody else has led because they had the sat nav, and we'd had intercoms. Anyone could have gone in front and had just been told when to turn. It would have changed everything.
As we've said, it's a game changer.
It is a game changer.
You've got it. But you haven't got mesh, though, have you?
No. You told me to get the wrong one, so I got the wrong one.
I didn't. I told you to get the right one, and you got the wrong one.
Okay.
Where did you go, Noel?
Got the tunnel and headed down towards Annecy. And then I found out that she didn't like hairpins, so we ditched the plan to keep heading south through the Alps. Headed east from that point and went sort of just past Chamonix and into Switzerland. Let Switzerland bankrupt us, and then up towards Luxembourg and home again. It was a nice trip because we weren't riding every day. We were kind of taking days off and going for nice walks. Clive's idea of hell.
I can't remember what podcast we had this discussion on, but I'm on a bike trip.
It was with Dan and Ed. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. My thinking was, I'm on a bike trip. Why the fuck would I want to go for a walk? I want to ride my bike.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But then if you're away for 3 weeks to a month, then yeah, of course you're going to need down days, aren't you, really, to do something different. I think that helps keeps it fun and entertaining.
Yeah. I'd like to be on the mailing list, Mungo, for anything like this in the future.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing it as like doing trips, but I realised that you need to do a smaller trip first to find out if people are up for it. In reality, it's great to think about it and talk about it, but I need to sort of do maybe a UK based trip first, and then if people are really lively about that, then do a long trip. Yeah,
it can be quite tiring, can't it? I mean, we've done 10-day trips with Mr. Hill, whose plans to the nth degree. Yeah. So we have kind of destinations in mind, and we will ride for 10 to 13 hours a day. I think an average day would probably be about 10 hours or something like that.
We'd always hear on about day 3 that we were behind schedule.
Yeah, that's the worst phrase to hear.
Yeah, it really is the worst phrase. Yeah,
but even that camping thing, isn't it? Setting up camp, sleeping in a tent, and getting up in the morning, packing away. That takes a toll as well. But I just think whenever I'm doing that, well, where would you rather be? Here, taking your tent down, or brushing your teeth, getting ready to go to work?
Yeah. We had people, we were like striking tent in Germany at Nürburgring, and like guys, just as we finished up, come out with perfectly made coffee and just say, your coffees. It was just ridiculous.
And you had no mechanicals on this Iraq trip? Everything went smoothly?
No, apart from Rich's bike, Betty, going down, she got all scratched up, but stuff we could manage with lots of cable ties. Yeah, just bent levers, nothing major. Yeah, the GS was all right, because that would be an absolute nightmare if that went wrong. I'm thinking about going to Iceland next year, so obviously got to change the tyres, but have you guys gone out there?
Yes, I've done it, yeah. I took my own bike and went up through Denmark and got the ferry over.
How was river crossings and stuff? Was it all right?
It was fine. This was always the thing, was dreading the river crossings.
Yeah.
And it was a sort of classic thing where you get to your first river crossing, it's all fine, you get through it, and then you just can't wait for the next one.
Oh, brilliant.
Having dreaded the first one. But I adopted the sort of the sit-down policy, because there's lots of river crossings with big sort of baby head-sized boulders, so it wasn't worth the risk of standing on the pegs to look cool and risking going down if something slipped. So I did tend to paddle my way through quite a lot, unless you could see the base of the river and see that it was a fine schiller.
Yeah.
But no, they were good, really. And some huge ones, some really long ones, but nothing fast, really, I don't think. But I was on a 650 Sateo, which would have been a nightmare to drain. So I was really paranoid about ditching it.
And you were on your own as well, which made it really difficult. There's a great article on the tampodcast.com website in the blog section.
Okay.
So Noel wrote about the trip and how he got there and the various ferries and things that he used to get there, so you can have a read of that. And he made an excellent film as well. Roads of F
Roads of Iceland. Have a look for that on YouTube.
It's a lovely, lovely film. Absolutely stunning. Iceland is amazing.
Is that your plan, Mungo, to your own bike? Yeah.
Yeah, so just go over there with some gravel tires or something and try to do 2 weeks, I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just get stuck in and maybe stay in some. How easy is it to stay in some of the chalets or like Buffy places?
I wild camped 90% of the time. There was one hostel right in the centre I was going to stay in, but it was quite expensive. So I said, can I just put my tent on your decking? And they were quite amenable about that, so I could still sort of cook inside and use the Wi-Fi, but just sleep outside. But so I didn't use a lot of accommodation. Hardly used any really. I just used a bit of a bunk barn somewhere, but predominantly I was just sleeping next to the road in the tent. It's quite hard even to wild camp, just because there's not a lot of nice ground to wild camp.
Yeah,
on.
that's a good point. Did you go to the
find a way.
Phallological Museum in Reykjavik?
No.
That's top of my list, that one.
All right.
What museum is that?
It's a museum of the penis, the mammalian penis. They've got like whale, human. I think they've got a cast of Jimi Hendrix's. It's all about some big Icelandic guy who's like, I'm going to have a museum about the penis. And I just wanted to go there primarily for the gift shop.
What bike are you going to take to Iceland?
I was thinking the GS Adventure, but
Yeah.
that's a big bike,
Yeah.
isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's not ideal, but what do you reckon? That'd be all right.
I think that'd be fine. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that'd be good. Yeah.
With the right tyres, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You're only on gravel tracks, aren't you? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
and it'd make the ride up through Denmark nice and easy.
Yeah, and is Denmark pretty dull, or did you find
Yeah,
anything?
it was a dull motorway ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it just seemed to go on forever.
Did you stop over at the Faroes?
I didn't. They give, when you get on the boat at Herschel's,
Yeah.
you have to say whether it stops over for about 6 hours.
Right.
It gets in at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And if you say you're going to get off, which you have to say before it sets off, they put your bike right next to the door.
Okay.
And when you get to the Faroes, if it's absolutely pouring down, you still have to get off.
Ah.
And I was and it was absolutely pouring down. But before, when I was asked whether I wanted to get off or not, I just thought I would find that really stressful, riding off away from the ferry and hoping I get back on time. I didn't like the stress of that idea. So I just had to wander around the town.
Right. Okay.
Because you've only got, like, as I said, 6 hours to have a look round and get back. And if you have a puncher, that's going to be a bit of a nightmare.
And you couldn't stay for longer and get the next ferry, or is it too far?
I think the gap was too big and it would eat into too much time, I think.
Yeah, true.
It didn't really work out that way. But one of the best things is the boat ride through the Faroes is unbelievable.
Wow.
It would be worth just doing that and coming back again. Because it's just, the Faroes, they just seem to come out of the
wedges. Yeah.
Yeah, they're incredible. And I wasn't expecting that bit to be such a highlight, but it really was.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The only downside to it is don't get one of the couchettes, which turned out to be little dormitory bunk beds in the bowels of the ship.
Oh no.
And it's boiling hot. All the crew couldn't give a monkeys about slamming the doors all night.
Yeah.
You'd probably end up surrounded by men who snore.
Yeah.
So if I was to go again, I would sort of try to get a room, because that would just transform that trip. I ended up taking my sleeping bag to the bottom of the stairwell and sleeping under the stairwell right on the car deck, because that was much nicer than sleeping in the little dormitory. And the crew saw me there and just left me alone.
How long was the ferry ride then?
It felt like it was probably 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights.
Okay.
And quite expensive, but I figure if you pay for an enduro bike from an Icelandic company, it's huge money.
Yeah.
And you've got the adventure of getting up there and the stories.
Oh, it's great. It's great taking your own bike.
Yeah.
What are you riding at the moment?
So I've still got my original KTM 400 EXC.
I've got pictures in my garage.
And I've kind of stopped trusting it now, because it's like all the rubber seals on the inside of the engine are starting to go, and I've replaced some, and it's still leaking oil a bit. And it's just got to the stage where I'm thinking, if we're going to go anywhere significant on it, I just think, it might break down. A friend of ours, Greg, has just had some problems with electrical wires rubbing through and things like that. He's just spent $1,000 on an engine rebuild, and he's still having all these different issues with it. And I'm just thinking, I'm getting a Honda. So I've got a CRF 300, which has got uprated suspension on it, and it's great. It's a bit, as you say, a bit wheezy on the road, but off-road, it's got everything you need. It's got all the torque you need. It's fine. Really happy with it. Took it to Spain, taking it to the Isle of Man this weekend. I've got a 1050 KTM. So I had to sell you remember my 990?
Yeah, of course, blue.
I had to sell that because we ran out of money when Archie was living in Newcastle for his rugby.
Triple D.
Still there. And I've got a CB500X I need to get rid of.
An old one?
No, it's a 19.
Okay, nice bikes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's got knobbly tyres on, all the protection. And I've got a little CB125S, which was the first bike I ever had as a kid, which is in bits. A twin? No, it's a single. Yeah, it's like like a precursor to the CG, really. Is that everything? 5?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, yeah, my CRF seems to get out most of the time, but when I go out on big road rides, it's the KTM 1050, which is an absolute fucking joy as well. And Noel thinks it's a very attractive bike.
That's the trouble, is the face on it looks like Jar Jar Binks, isn't it?
So instructing for you, Mungo, and spending all that time on a bike, it's not diminished your joy of motorcycling at all?
No, not at all. Like in some ways, some customers, clients have reinvigorated me to do trips. So there was a time where when I started the business, so I started my own business in 2016, I didn't have time to do track days and stuff, and in enduros. I was doing a little bit of enduros with once with Clive, and a couple of customers who become friends who've really wanted to do it. So in a way, they've got me back into it. So no, but I try to push myself out there to do what I like doing, because I think a lot of instructors don't do what they love doing. They end up just working a lot, and that apply. I do a bit of scuba as well. That applies to scuba diving. It's like, people don't go out and do their passion, which is a great shame, and then they become stuck in a rut and all the rest of it. So yeah, no, I try to like on Sunday I'm going to Anglesey. Never been to Anglesey track, and I'm just going to ride the GS up there. And my mate hires bikes for track day, so I hire a Suzuki 1000 off him and go and scare myself silly on Anglesey. So yeah.
I think I've been past the track. Is there a great view of the sea from the track? Yeah.
It's like a Welsh version of Phillip Island. Yeah, it looks out to the sea. And apparently it's very grippy in the wet, so fingers crossed. It's looking like it's going to pour.
Have you had any big offs on track days, or had anyone else hit you?
No, but there've been some big ones recently, on track days as well. So I had one guy high side in front of me, and I was actually on one of Matt's hire bikes. And when you're riding someone else's bike, you steadily push on, but I don't ride like my own bike. And he broadsided right in front of me on Brands Hatch GP, and I hit the brakes so hard and then try to work out which way is his bike or him going to go.
Were you leant over at this point?
I was fairly leant over, yeah. And I just saw his rear go, and I thought, oh God, I've got video of it as well. It's pretty exciting, but that's the closest I've come. And I don't think there's anything you could have done about it, I suppose. Sometimes there's a mismatch of pace within the same group. So you're trying to get past a group, and you're trying to be not hanging around, but you're trying to do it quite efficiently, but that doesn't always work out. So yeah, luckily, touch wood, not been on the grass a few times, but never.
You've never had any significant injuries, have you? In my memory of riding with you.
Lucky. I had the Morocco trip where could have ended me. I high-sided a CRF 450 in a boulder field on Dakar route, and just landed where it's on a slight rise where there was no rocks, and just thought, wow, I'm so lucky, and just twisted bars. But yeah, I've been super lucky. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, did you I'm always amazed if I go away on quite a long trip, how I can come back and there has been no iffy moments at all.
Yeah.
Did you have any iffy moments going to Iraq and back?
Not really. Just one where a guy, where was that then? I think Holland on the last few days, the guy just changed lane quite dramatically. I kind of saw him. I kind of felt like he was going to switch lane on me anyway. So I was kind of off gas, ready for it. And then he did it, and it was just kind of slightly entertaining, but nothing where the adrenaline's kicking in.
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to scan and try to have it in check. Any animals? Oh, we had a snake. We had a dog attack. We had Caucasian shepherd dogs, pretty big dogs.
Yeah.
Go crazy at us, and I was filming because the shepherd. It was a shepherd with goats on the road. So I thought, here we go. So I stuck the camera on, and sure enough, these two big dogs just trying to take us out, and they don't know. Luckily, they don't know where to bite, I think, when they're running on a bike. But they must have been doing 30 mile an hour. And then the road curved round, so I got to see my mate Rich get attacked right out. It's perfect.
So nice to catch up, though. It's been a ridiculous long time. Yeah, we should do another trip together.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we, before I die?
Yeah.
The dunes, because I'd love to get back there, and you'd love to get up the dunes.
Yeah. Sam's a good guy as well, and maybe we can get Pete out there as well. I think he's carried on. I don't know if he's still got a place out there or what. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. I'm sorry I was late.
No, ain't nothing. No, it's just I'm just delighted we caught up. But yeah, fuck it, we've got to do a trip. I don't care where, even if it's just meeting in Wales or something.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be great. I'd love that.
Have a great time in the Isle of Man. Where are you going to go in the Isle of Man?
Well, it's basically with the local TRF group are going over there. So we go over Friday lunchtime-ish. We've got 2 nights in some hotel. And I think we've got a North Island loop and a South Island loop. So it's like 2 days riding. And the trails over there are awesome as well. So
I've just done my classic thought of another question that I want to ask. I'm a big fan, Mungo, of the dual clutch transmission on the Hondas.
it's really not an interesting question.
Can you take a test on an automatic motorcycle?
Yeah, you can, but
Yeah.
then you're limited to automatic.
Oh, really?
So I had a guy, and his name, no joke, was Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And he had one arm, and so his left hand, he had a hook,
Yeah.
and he had one of those dual transmission 750s.
Yeah.
He did a slight stoppie on the stop in the box, and the examiner was like, "Yeah, that's fine. He had it under control." But yeah, so he did a test and rides a bike still with one arm with a dual transmission,
Wow.
limited to automatic.
Yeah. Have you ridden them much, dual clutches?
No,
No.
I always think the NC's really boring.
Oh, man.
It's exactly right. It's basically a cross between a scooter and a car. It's got half a car engine in a scooter frame.
Fall in love with any bike. You fall in love with any bike. I get that,
Yeah.
but the limiter is what, 6.5, isn't it?
Yeah. The
But-
limited doesn't bother me. I can do all the overtaking I want to do.
Yeah, it's got nice
Yeah.
torque. But when I first got on it, I didn't really understand it. I love the glove box under where the petrol should be. That's cool.
Yeah.
But you see them everywhere, and the guys always look a little bit bored. But it's a bit like the old CB500s. They were great bikes.
Yeah.
They didn't look that great, but
I
and
can
there's some problems with the original gearbox, isn't there? I
Oh,
think-
no, I've not heard that, no.
Okay, maybe not.
It's like a motorbike with all the motorbike taken out of it,
Little
Oh,
bit.
it's
That's
a
what I thought.
dream. It's a dream.
replaced
I
with
absolutely
some
love it.
dull.
No, it's
I'm only
easy.
saying that because Noel's on his second one now.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. And find
People
it a really grunty engine.
Features on one, and he absolutely loves it.
Mm.
Has it got dual brakes?
It doesn't. This is the thing I think they missed a trick on. They didn't put. I wish they put a lever in place of the clutch lever. I wish they put the back brake like a quad bike.
Yeah,
It would have been great if all the controls were on the handlebars and just eliminate the pedal. really.
yeah,
That
that'd be
would
cool.
be nice. Mm. But no, I absolutely love mine. And for touring, what a fantastic bike to
Yeah,
tour on.
big touring.
All the gear changes you don't have to be asked with doing is just fantastic. And I find it an incredibly quick bike in hairpins because you can accelerate out of
Yeah,
hairpins
yeah,
so quickly.
We drive out of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Good on fuel.
What's yours? Blue.
It's white.
White. Okay.
It's even a boring colour.
Got the X version when it came out, and then I thought it doesn't need all this extra bodywork really. So I got the S version the second time around.
Oh, mate, I love you. I love you and I miss you.
Give me love you too, man. Let's do it. We've got to burn some rubber.
Yeah.
Does he
Yeah,
does he owe you any back rent? Was he paid up in full for all the
I
time?
think I ripped him off because he was never there.
Is that stain still on the carpet, or did you get that?
Yeah, it's
There
on the
was
ceiling.
stain.
It's on the
It's on
ceiling.
the ceiling. Right.
Take care,
Good
guys.
night.
Yeah,
Right,
good
Love
cheers.
you.
Love you, man.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Well, I hope that wasn't too self-indulgent. I really enjoyed catching up with Mungo, as you can probably tell. That's it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to show us some support, you can do either through Patreon or buy me a coffee. Also, we've got a website set up now, thetampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, something like that, you'll find it. And there's some stickers for sale on there as well. And also, I've ordered some buffs, so at some point there'll be some buffs for sale on there as well. Yeah, but any support is much appreciated. See you next time. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.